I get these questions on Discord and other videos, and I'll just make this one video to end them all. So hopefully I'm not gonna get these anymore, cause I don't want to make 10,000 different videos for the very same topic. PvE skills. What I use in PvE on Shadowdancer, so Speed Dagger, it's pretty simple. I use the same skills for PvE always. I never swap any skills at all for PvE. Not even a single time. Every boss encounter I go into, Gate of Infinity, anything it can be, I always use the same. And it goes like this. I already showed you my gear in the other video, and now I'm gonna show you my skills. And it's always the same. I can't stress this enough. So T4, T5 can come out if there's not going to be any changes to how Spear plays, skill-wise. The skills are gonna stay exactly the same, and it goes like this. I use Dagger Q roll. It deals alright damage, but mostly for mana management. And you go invis, and then after you leave invis, your next attack is crit, but that's not really that big of a deal. But mostly for mana. In very long fights, mana can be an issue for me, even with 90 wisdom or more. And then it goes like this. Mostly spear skills. Dagger skills are here for buffs, really, not really for damage. I mean, passives, yeah, but it's mostly buffs, and I'll explain in a moment. Cooling Arc and Cyclonic Fury are for the weaken burst and weaken ignite. You can use the Flaming Arc for ignite, but with this setup, I found that the ignite version of the arc is not that big of a deal. I can do without it with the way it is set up over here. I tried it with the flaming one, and I also tried the Phoenix Barrage over here for Cyclonic Fury, and I was actually dealing less damage than with this setup I have over here. So Cooling Arc and then Cyclonic Fury have to be used before you use Brutal Fury for the maximum amount of additional uses and damage, basically. Without using the Cooling Arc and the Cyclonic Fury, if you use this Brutal Fury over here, it's just not gonna do that much damage. So I can only use this once, but if I were to use Cyclonic and Arc before, I could use the Brutal Fury more times now and just do more damage. It's pretty simple. And then the main damage source is the Slurring Slash Frenzy Sword Dance combo. So the way I do it is, obviously, let's say I have my buffs, right? And then Arc, and then jab, jab, jab. And now for the main combo, I have Stigma. Now my Stigma is counting down. Let's say it's 3 seconds. So I have to fit all of my skills into this 3-second window. The big hitters, right? So let's do it like this. I would go into some attack speed. And now this. Like this. And my Stigma explodes there. So the main damage comes from the Slurring Slash and the Frenzy Sword Dance. For speed skills, I use Unyielding Sentinel for the buff. I use the one without the spec because it takes too long. If you take this spec, you get more heavy, but the cooldown goes up, and I don't want that. I want this to be up as much as possible. The cooldown is very low, and I only get 50 heavy. I mean, it's not gonna do much for me. I have 1200, 300 heavy already, so who cares? So, and then Gale Rush for attack speed, really, and nothing else. I just get a lot of attack speed. Without any buffs, I'm at about 80% attack speed, but when I buff up, and let's say there's a great sword player in my party, I get to close to 150% attack speed, so the cap, through passives and different weekends. And then for Dagger, Cleaving Moonlight for the 15% attack speed buff over here. Now it says attack speed increases by 15% while consecutive use is activated. So unfortunately, you have to use this consecutive use. It's pretty expensive. Now I never really use this. I think you don't want to use this again. So you want to use it once, so you get the buff, but you don't actually want to reapply it. So don't do that. I think at this point your attack speed is gone. So use it once and then do your damage, and just let it run out, and it's back up. You know what I mean? Then use it twice. I want that attack speed. It's important. Umbral Spirit and Inject Venom for buffs and general damage. You get a lot of damage from passives and masteries thanks to Inject Venom, and then Umbral Spirit on top of it is a great combination, the both of them. Brutal Incision for, let's call it poison thunder bombing. So with this passive over here, you do more damage to targets that are poisoned. The target is always poisoned for us Shadowdancers with the kind of build that I have, so you always get this bonus damage. And then Umbral Spirit, same thing here, do more damage against poison targets, and then duration increase. You could probably just drop this duration increase if you had the Leviathan daggers, but I am super broke and I never got these, so I have to get that spec. And then Sigma, obviously, you sort of need it in PvE if you're on Dagger. Just maximize your damage. I don't think you can do PvE without this. It's just so good. And then this spec for even more damage. And for passives, I use Assassin's Instincts for more crit, obviously. Murderous Energy, stacks well with poison and just buffs poison even more. That's what I want. Wrathful Edge, even more crit. Have about 50% crit without any buffs. Now these passives here from Spear, they're a bit misleading. On paper it doesn't look like this would be a good choice, and you might wonder why I'm picking these, but masteries really make these pretty decent to pick up. So Nimble Steps, Imposing Form, Fatal Precision, Mortal Wrath, and then Retaliatory Strike. I think Destructive Fang can also be used, let's say, instead of Nimble Steps, but I actually think Nimble Steps is a little bit better. And then for specs, it's pretty simple. Consecutive use, attack speed, you need it. Extra damage on Brutal Incision, Umbral Spirit, same, extra damage and duration. Fatal Sigma, you want the extra damage spec, and then Frenzy Sword Dance, you want cooldown, and Thunderclouds. And then for Spear, it's here you can actually have a bit of freedom. You can choose different things. It's just that I think this setup that I have is the best for me. I've seen people do different things. Like I said, you can put Sentinel Bastion over here and then Phoenix Barrage over here, let's say. But I think this setup that I have is pretty decent for me, in my personal opinion. I've even seen people use Cataclysm. I don't know why, but you can probably use this too. I mean, up to you. So I use the damage increasing specs on Cooling Arc, because you use this quite often. The cooldown is very low. This is your spammable, let's say. Gay Rush, I want the buff immediately, and I want the buff for longer. It's pretty simple. Brutal Fury, Vicious Fury changed to Brutal Fury for, I think, more damage, and then more damage at 5 burst stacks, and I get to 5 burst stacks really quick. Slaughtering Slash, more damage on explosions, and then changing the Rising Slash to Slaughtering Slash. Rising Slash good for PvE, but in PvE I think Slaughtering Slash is just better. And then Cyclonic Fury, more damage if they are under these conditions, which is quite often, and then more critical damage. Now you could take this off and do something else, but 30 points is not that big and you have to squeeze it in somewhere, so I just put it in here. More critical damage. It's pretty simple, right? And yeah, that's basically the skills. Now the masteries, they are basically the same between my PvP and PvE build. Look, there's really no diff. The only difference is the actual mastery skills. For PvE, I have Destructive Spear, potential. This new one, survival enhancement, is actually pretty decent. And then Dragon Ascent. Now, if mana is an issue, don't use Dragon Ascent. Use something else like Falling Flower or anything really. You know, this battle prep is pretty decent too if you got it. If you're new to Throne, use Deadly Viper. It's pretty cheap. You can get there pretty fast. It's not that big of a deal really. I used this on some rotations when I tested things and it worked. So really it's not that big of a deal. But yeah, for PvE and PvP, my masteries stay the same. It's really not that big of a change. Most importantly, you want the critical damage from Dexterous Power over here on daggers. You want the Merciless form. You want as much damage as possible. I also run Bloodseeker over here. Now this technically lowers my damage output, but I want to be more tanky during bosses and, like, let's say Calantia phase 2. The zombies are hitting you, Calantia is doing AoEs, there's a bunch of damage, the rain, the line, there's a bunch of damage, and I want to help the tank and I want to help the healer. So I want to have some self-sustain. Well, with this I can survive a very, very long time because of how high my damage output is. You know what I mean? And then obviously all of the red line besides hit chance, because why would you want hit chance in PvE? And then for spear, same story. Red line. If you see any mastery that I might have chosen but it seems useless to you, like this hit chance here, I could probably take this off and put it somewhere else, like over here, more max health. But basically red line, and then I also chose this for the shield when an enemy dies, because the other two are not that great in my opinion. I don't have 50 fortitude, so who cares, you know what I mean? And my attack speed is pretty low too, pretty high anyway. And now here, look, Nimble Steps on paper looks pretty bad, but I want the extra attack speed. During a raid, when there's a Great Sword Dagger with Da Vinci, I get close to or actually over the 150% attack speed cap. And then my daggers shred. My daggers actually shred like crazy thanks to all the attack speed. And then yeah, the rest is pretty simple. Nothing that fancy. For the masteries, Guardian, Nemesis is for PvP. For PvE, I would use Steno, but I don't really do like hardcore PvE, so I don't really have that many chances to like actually utilize this. Steno or Lady Knight. I think Lady Knight is actually a little bit better because of the cooldown reduction. The cooldowns on Spear are not gigantic, but they are pretty hefty, so Lady Knight is pretty decent. But I think Steno has just maybe a little bit more damage, but I never actually tested this because it takes so long to bring them back from cooldown and I just can't be asked. So either one of them should work. And then for artifacts, I have 4 pieces of the Chaos Harbinger, and then Ravager and the Abyssal Beast. Abyssal Beast for more base damage, and then the active artifact is the Ravager. I don't think there's any better for now at least. And then 4-piece Harbinger for more crit damage and crit chance. And yeah, that's basically what I use for PvE. So it's the same gear and same everything I use for PvP. Look, it's just the difference are the skills really, and maybe a little bit of skill points, but it's really mostly the skills. And yeah,